All right, let's talk about the Golden State Warriors, who are 20-20 as we record this, 10th in the Western Conference. The Warriors front office has been aggressively pursuing other deals for the better part of the last year. We know they chased Paul George last summer, Lowry Markkanen. They kicked the tires on Jimmy Butler. Over the last few days, you have had the remnants of the Warriors championship dynasty surprisingly saying that they are not looking for this team to make a desperation win now type of deal. Effectively saying, don't get desperate. Don't mortgage the future. Don't sacrifice what this team could be when we're gone for a short-term fix right now. Let's start there, Ben, because these comments, which came from Draymond Green, from Steph Curry, from Steve Kerr, not your typical comments that come from veterans on a team that wants to compete for a championship. What did you make of the comments from those three?
Well, what you're saying is usually in that situation, whether it's the players or the coach, they're saying we want to, get whatever we can to make a run this year. And they're kind of going the other way and saying, hey, our future is really important to us. And you're sitting around thinking like, are you even going to be here for that future? And I think Steve Kerr in one of his comments even said, well, I might not be here, but we still owe it to the organization to, take the long-term view rather than just mortgage things for the short term. I take a couple things out of it. First of all, I think there's a realistic acknowledgement from those characters. They're not one piece away. There is no magic trade, unless you're somehow getting Giannis and Wemby together, that's going to put this team in position to compete for a title this year. So I think that's good because these comments just kind of lower the temperature. I just feel it's been a little toxic around the Golden State Warriors. The conversation has, not them, but the expectations of, oh, we have to do this for Steph. Oh, you have to make another run. Like, yeah, in theory, but if there's no trades out there that are really going to accomplish that, if your group is just kind of average and not that great, which is where their group is, and Steph is no longer where he was even during that 2022 championship run, in my opinion, in terms of night-to-night impact, he has to pace himself more. His numbers are a little bit down. To me, it's just in everybody's best interest to cool the temperature and say, hey, like, chill out. We're not going to mortgage everything right now. Don't have that expectation. Now, the fans didn't take it that way. The fans took it, oh, you're punting on the season. We don't want you guys to punt on the season. And I think you've seen some cleanup work, especially from Kerr over the last couple of days to say, hey, look, it's not like we're giving up here. We're just trying to be realistic. I think ultimately the die was cast for Golden State last summer. They really cut costs, did they not? They let Chris Paul go. They let Klay Thompson go. At that point, everyone should have realized this is not going to be a 2025 contender. Okay. They're just trying to rebalance the books, retool a little bit and try to get back to a more sustainable plan. And by the way, they spent so much money on luxury taxes over these last 5 years. Can we really blame them for wanting to do that? It got really, really expensive here. And I think pretty much every organization has to go through some cutbacks every once in a while, even the NBA's richest organizations.
Yeah, and to give them credit to, like, they did make good faith efforts to get Paul George. They did make an effort to get Lowry Markkanen. Like, those are real. Like, they couldn't. Like,
Would that have mattered? Like, does that put them into a championship picture? Let's say they had even done it. Like, Paul George has been one of the worst moves in the offseason at the price he got. I mean, let's be real. Larry Markkanen, I like him as a player a lot. I think he would have been a great fit for Golden State. He'd be a great fit a lot of places. He's not having the best season, right? Like, does that really boost them up to the top tier of the West? Oklahoma City is still running away from them, right?
Yeah, I agree with that. That brings me to the greater point that I don't know that there is any move they can make that puts them into that Oklahoma City tier or makes them competitive. I mean, they're something like 8-17 since Thanksgiving. The offense has been bad. Dennis Schroeder has not helped in that regard. The Buddy Hield honeymoon is over out in Golden State. He's around 30% from three over the last month and a half. I've seen a lot about Nikola Vucevic, maybe make a difference. They probably could use a stretch five. That would probably help Steph and help some of those guys out there. I mean, Vucevic has his own defensive issues, so there's that. But I don't know that they have that there's a move that instantly makes them a contender. That's why, like, we hate to say, fans don't want to hear about punting on a season, but it might not be the worst thing in the world for this team to finish in the lottery because you can go into the summer with a lottery pick. And maybe if you want to run this back one more time, you take one more run with this group, the last dance of what's left of the Warriors, and see if you can make an addition in the offseason. Because right now there is no deal that can make them a championship team. And look, some of that is it is some cost cutting. I agree with you there, but they've paid the price for some not so good draft picks over the years.
Yeah.
I mean, the highlight is James Wiseman, who was a catastrophe in Golden State. They could have had LaMelo Ball among others and done a lot with someone like that. But they draft Wiseman. He's gone a couple of years later. They get virtually nothing in return. The Moses Moody pick, he's okay. Kuminga looks pretty good, but there's some other guys they passed on in that draft that might have been better fits for this team. So, that they've missed those opportunities to kind of push this window open organically when they had a chance. And look, having the number 2 pick in the draft in 2020 was a chance. Like, that was your opportunity to really stretch this window out any further, and they couldn't do it. So I think my thought is, don't do anything crazy. Come back next summer and figure out what you can do with this group. That's got to be the only thing you can do.
Yeah, I think the long-term approach here too. I get why you make these comments if you're Steph and those guys, because they want to just live life day to day, not under the shadow of like, oh, you guys have to do something, or this like anger or this fury from the fan base of like, oh, we're not trying. So you're just trying to reset the conversation. I think that makes sense. To me, for Golden State to ever reopen a championship window, it's about trying to be a landing pad organization, sort of like the Lakers became for LeBron James. I think that's really where their next championship window would come from, because as great as Steph still is, like I wonder, okay, well, does he have enough around him currently to compete for titles? Clearly not. Or even if you're bringing in a new number 2, like we were saying with Paul George or Larry Markkinen, is that enough? Probably not. So the way you would do it is you get some massive megastar who's looking for a change of scenery, and Golden State is prepared. They've kind of created the opportunity for that player to come, and then all of a sudden it's his team and they're going forward. It's going to take years for something like that to play out. And so that's why the long-term viewpoint makes a lot of sense to me. I would not be, going out of my way to sell valuable draft picks or young players at this deadline for a short-term boost. It just seems, kind of backwards thinking. And it's tough because that organization and fan base is really used to winning for a long time, but the NBA doesn't work that way. You don't get to win forever. Think about all the pain. You were talking about Boston's great 6-year run. Think about the pain in the years before that, right? Where it's like there's rebuilding years, you're retooling. Brad's got to build things up brick by brick. And I think that's sort of the future that Golden State's looking at.
Yeah, and the Celtics got really lucky with the way the Nets collapsed.
No Wiseman's. No Wiseman's.
No Wiseman's there. I mean, they started drafting stretchy wings before it was really all that cool, and it worked out for them. And look, with the Celtics, like their turn is coming too at some point. Like they can't survive with a $500 million payroll for forever. They've probably got, if their ownership's willing to spend, 2-3 more years left with the group they've got, but they're going to face the same things. I don't want to go down the trade Steph rabbit hole, not just yet, but gut feeling with Steph Curry having 2.5 years left on his contract, which is probably going to take him to the end of his career. Do you think that Steph finishes his career as a Warrior?
I do. Call me a romantic, but I think that's how it's going to play out. I've never seen him suggest, hint, body language. I look at all that stuff really carefully, right? And I just have never really seen it get to a breaking point. I think, he's got so much of his own personal, whether you want to call it brand or legacy, tied up with that organization. Like the idea of him being able to walk off the court for his final game, like Kobe walked off with the Lakers or like Tim Duncan walked off with the Spurs. It's just too pretty of a picture. I don't even want to really contemplate the alternatives. Although I know people are doing that. I understand why they're doing it, but I cannot really see Steph Curry in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers phase, like some people have referenced with Tom Brady, or the Washington Wizards phase for a Michael Jordan. I just can't see it. I can't picture it.
No, I can't either. And if you're Steph, like you wouldn't leave to chase a ring. You got 4 of them, right? Like your legacy is secure.
You're good.
you're good. It would suck to watch Steph Curry on like a 9 seed for the next 2 years. But even if that's the case, I'm with you. I think he finishes his career in Golden State.